Alright, this is Midnight Paranormal Files. This week we are out in Plainfield, Wisconsin. We're going to do a little deer. Holy crap, Kyle. Anyways, we are doing a Ed Gein tour this weekend, and we are going to stop out at all the locations located to his lore out here. First location we're going to go out to is the location of the first murder, which is Bernice Warden's Tavern. This is the site of the first murder. He snuck in the bar late at night and I believe shot her to death because she resembled his mother. This was a murder that happened. Nobody figured out for quite a while, from what I've understood. She was on his property for a very long time before they caught on to him on this one. So we are all on our way out there right now, and we're going to take a little tour. Join us, will you? We should be about 5 minutes from our location right now.
We're actually coming up. It's like the next road.
Apparently we are closer than I thought. So the tavern is no longer there, but I think there's a little bit of the location left. We're going to do a quick drive-by and show you guys where it's at.
Rolling down the window for to shoot. It's coming up in like less than a minute almost.
We are now turning onto the road of the location of the tavern, or what was the tavern.
It's right here. Or what would have been right here.
So right over here is what the location of the tavern once was back in the 1950s. It has since been raised, I'm guessing because of the whole thing that happened. But yeah, this is the spot where he murdered her in the 1950s, and they found her head in the house when they busted him for all the crimes he committed. Alright, on our next location, we were going out to Spiritland Cemetery, which was one of the places that he grave robbed quite often.
This graveyard, or this driveway right here is where
the tavern once was right over here, right over by this cornfield. The patrons came in the next day, found the doors unlocked, they saw blood all over the place. Spiritland, I think it's a different one. I think Spiritland's the one further out. The one that he is buried at is the one by the Napa.
Plainfield Cemetery.
Plainfield Cemetery. Yeah. Spiritland is one of the places that he grave robbed the most, though, because it was more closer to Archer Ave, which was on his property, which we are going out to see today.
Not going into.
No, we're not going into it, though, unfortunately, due to being private property, and it's, yeah, you will get it for trespassing. Going out there is highly watched.
Yeah. So we'll just do a quick drive-by just to show you guys what's up.
The interstate is coming up here. It's I-94, not 94, but I-39.
I-39. Plainfield, Wisconsin is pretty much known for cornfields and Ed Gein. That's really all that's out here. This town has a population of probably about 800 people, and to this day they are very just don't like talking about what happened back in the 50s. It left a scar in this town that runs deep yet to this day. You do not want to walk into any of the establishments here and ask questions and mention his name. You will be kicked out.
Our great grandmother used to live next to him back in the 50s, and she was almost one of the kids that he would let babysit, but at that time my great grandma's mother told him no, and come to find out that's what happened. So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. My old neighbor met him multiple times as a kid. His parents ran a local auto shop, and Ed Gein would come in there and buy antifreeze almost on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
And nobody even questioned. They just thought he was a little bit of the town weirdo, but thought he was harmless.
Didn't they base the Texas Chainsaw Massacre off of Ed Gein?
Yes, they did base the Texas Chainsaw Massacre off Ed Gein, as well as Norman Bates in Psycho, and there's one more I'm thinking of, Buffalo Bob.
Buffalo Bob, yeah.
From Silence of the Lambs.
Correct.
There's also 2 Ed Gein movies out there that
There is, yes.
based on the story. One of them's a little bit less accurate. It's got a more of a higher budget, so it's better done. But the one that's lower budget actually is more accurate to the true story.
And also, didn't he die of cancer?
Yes, he did die of cancer in the sane asylum somewhere up north. I can't think of the name offhand, but he died in 1984.
Yep. 77 years old.
Yep, 77 years old. And he was not tried, actually, and convicted of the crimes until 1970-something, because originally they said he was incompetent to stand trial due to being insane.
Yep.
And he spent most of his years in an insane asylum. They tried him again, and I believe then they just convicted him back to the insane asylum to live out the rest of his days.
Yep. And then he ended up passing.
Yeah, what they said, though, is on the times when there would be a full moon, he'd start acting real loony.
That's a Gemini, I think.
He'd start talking about all of his stuff and to the insane asylum patients and workers, and yeah. But as soon as it would be the next day, he'd just be back to normal, weird old Ed Gein.
The cemetery's coming up. Should I drive in there?
Sure.
Yeah. We're allowed to. Why not?
We got an abandoned house on the left of us here. It looks like it's been overgrown probably for about a good 30 years. Oh, she's collapsed in herself.
Oh, wow.
This is Spiritland Cemetery. Holy crap, this place is creepy looking. I've never been here.
Me either.
I'm not gonna pull.
So this is the cemetery that Ed Gein Grave dropped quite a few of his sites from. It looks like it is very abandoned. Alright, so we're going out to Bernice Warden's hardware store right now. We had to stop filming there for a little bit. We had a bunch of people at the Two Lakes restaurant out here, and I didn't want to film them. But what I was saying was, so in 1953, one day, he decided to show up at the hardware store and ask Bernice Warden to come and fill him some antifreeze. So as she went back and was filling the antifreeze, he started to realize that she looked like his mother, Augusta. Something snapped in his brain. He went out to his truck, grabbed his rifle, and shot her point blank in the head. Dragged her in his truck and took her back to the house. Well, I'm not sure if this is exactly the truth behind the story, but I think her son was a deputy for the Washera County Police Department. And when they found out she was missing, they started a search party and all that, and eventually they were looking through her books to see who the final client was in her store, and of course, it was Ed Gein. So they got the warrant, went over to his house. He was not there, but they came into his house of horrors. As they went through inside, they found all the skulls, all the furniture made out of skin, and one of the deputies went into the shed. Well, sure enough, there was Mary Hogan hung up, gutted like a deer. Ed Gein was actually not at the house at the time. He was down at a neighbor's having supper. They eventually found us out and came and arrested him. Yep, we're coming up to Plainfield right now, and we should be heading into the center part of town where the hardware store is. Right here is the location of the old Bernice Warden's hardware store. This is where she was murdered all these years ago. Today it is a storage unit, which is not very used, but there is a lot of paranormal activity that happens in this location. This is the site of Ed Gein's grave, as well as many of the bodies that he decided to dig up. Sadly, he's buried next to quite a few of them, as well as his mother Augusta and his brother, whose name just happens to be slipping my mind at this moment. This place has a long and storied history behind it, and Plainfield is very, very careful about this cemetery. They do not want people in here checking this stuff out. So Ed Gein's grave is actually unmarked at this point due to the fact that people were coming out and messing with it, and actually someone stole the whole gravestone and wound up on eBay in the 2000s in Washington State. It is now held in the Clark County courthouse, I believe, or it's in their shed somewhere out here. I can't remember. I've heard both stories. We should be coming up to the Hancock Cemetery. I believe it's up here on the left. Good point. Yeah, corn next to a cemetery. Yeah. Here on the left is the Hancock Cemetery. Looks like quite the large cemetery to me. Oh, I've been out this way before. Quite a few of his grave robbing events happened out in this cemetery, as well as I said earlier about him dancing around in a skin suit in the moonlight out in this location. Back in the 50s, I'm guessing it was a lot less suburban out in this area, less houses. Alright, we are on to our last and the major location of this tour. We are going out to 2nd and Archer, which is the location of the Gein property. I mean, I could go on for minutes talking about this place and all the stuff that happened out here. This is where the house was. This is where they found all the bodies. This is where they say to this day there could be still remains from what I just heard recently in the discovery investigation. His brother mysteriously died on the property. I believe Augusta died as well. And they say that both him and Augusta haunt the property to this day. Back in 1957, it mysteriously burned down under circumstances, which I believe the town folk burned it down because they wanted to turn it into basically a horror museum. Actually, someone owns this truck to this day in the museum, but that's pretty much all that is left. Alright, we are going to be coming up on the Gein property here in about a couple seconds. Nope, this is it right here.
Oh, yep.
Spin her around, come back around.
Yeah.
Alright, we just had to spin around because we thought it was on the wrong side of the road. We just passed it by a little bit. Right now, we are on a road that probably Ed Gein drove down, hauling bodies in his truck back to his farm right now. It's crazy to think about that this was where he probably drove back to his place all those times. Alright, here, right up here in the corner is the location, 2nd and Archer. So there's nothing on this property anymore to this day. I always heard there was a shed or a basement, but there's not. There's nothing left. There's a couple mounds, which were kind of suspicious from what I've seen in the Discovery documentary. But this is it right here. Place where it all happened. N569 Archer Avenue. The house would have been back there along the tree line.
There's a shed.
Oh, there is a shed. There is a shed still on the property.
Oh, yeah?
I knew it.
There's like a little well looking thing.
What? So apparently there is a shed on the property and there's still a well. Who knows what's in that well?
I didn't even know there was a well.
But that concludes our Plainfield trip of the Ed Gein tour. We have toured Mary Hogan's hardware store, or Mary Hogan's Tavern, Bernice Warden's hardware store. We went to Hancock Cemetery, Plainfield Cemetery, the place that I got spooked out real bad, and where we got pictures actually of Ed Gein's grave, which we will be adding to this video. Hancock Cemetery, and last of all, the house on Archer Ave. Follow us for more videos, subscribe and like. We will keep posting stuff, most likely every Friday.